Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of Earth's newest space station. He watched through the large windows as strange lights appeared in the darkness of space. The lights grew bigger and brighter. Soon, he could see they were not lights at all. They were massive alien ships. "Sir, we have contact," said Lieutenant Ben Rodriguez from his station. His voice was calm, but Jake could hear the worry underneath. 12 ships, sir. They're huge. Much bigger than anything we have." Jake nodded. He had been expecting this day for years. Earth scientists had been picking up alien signals for decades. They knew someone was out there. They knew this meeting would happen someday. "Open a channel," Jake ordered. "Let's see what they want." The main screen flickered to life. An alien face appeared. It was like nothing Jake had ever seen. The creature had 4 eyes, green skin, and a mouth full of sharp teeth. Its head was covered in spikes that moved like they were alive. "I am Hive Commander Zoct H of the Zephyrian Galactic Empire," the alien said. Its voice was deep and harsh. "I speak for Emperor Vex Hall, ruler of 847 worlds." Jake stepped forward. "I'm Captain Jake Morrison. I speak for Earth and all humans. What do you want?" The alien's 4 eyes blinked slowly. "We bring an offer of protection and peace. Your world will join our empire. You will pay tribute to the Emperor. In return, we will protect you from other dangers in the galaxy." "What kind of tribute?" Jake asked, though he already knew he wouldn't like the answer. 40% of all. "Your resources," Zoct replied. "Food, metals, energy, technology. Also, 10% of your population will serve the Empire as workers." Jake felt his jaw tighten. Behind him, he heard Lieutenant Rodriguez curse under his breath. Other crew members shifted nervously at their stations. "And if we refuse?" Jake asked. The alien showed its teeth in what might have been a smile. "No world has ever refused. It would be ... unwise. The Empire has great power. Your ships are small. Your weapons are weak. We could destroy your planet in one day." Jake looked at the alien commander for a long moment. Then he turned to his communications. "Officer, Lieutenant Rodriguez, please record this message and send it to all Earth governments." "Yes, sir," Rodriguez replied, his fingers dancing over his controls. Jake turned back to the screen. "Commander Zoct, I have a message for your Emperor. Tell him that Earth declines his generous offer. We will not pay tribute. We will not join his empire. And if any of your ships come closer to our world, we will consider it an act of war." The alien's eyes widened. "All 4 of them. You ... refuse? This cannot be. No species refuses the Empire's protection." "Well, we just did," Jake said simply. "You do not understand," Zoct continued. "We have conquered 847 worlds. We have ships beyond counting. Your technology is primitive. You have only achieved basic space travel. You cannot fight the Empire." Jake smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. "Commander, you've made some mistakes. First, you assume we're primitive, just because we look different from you. Second, you think we're weak because our ships look small. Third, you believe we'll give up our freedom without a fight." "Your freedom?" The alien seemed confused by the word. "Yes, freedom. The right to make our own choices. The right to live as we choose. The right to say no to bullies who demand tribute." Jake's voice grew stronger. "Humans have been fighting for freedom for thousands of years. We've fought kings, emperors, and dictators. We've never given up, and we won't start now." "Zekts?" Spikes moved faster, showing his anger. "You are foolish. The Empire is merciful, but only to those who submit quickly. You will have 72 hours to reconsider. If you do not surrender, we will demonstrate our power." "Commander," Jake said, Let me be very clear. In 72 hours, I expect your ships to be gone from our solar system. If they're still here, we'll remove them ourselves." The alien commander made a sound like angry insects buzzing. "Impossible. You have perhaps 50 small ships. We have seen your pathetic defenses. You cannot threaten the Empire." Jake turned to Lieutenant Rodriguez. "Cut the transmission." The screen went black. The bridge was quiet for a moment. Then Rodriguez spoke up. "Sir, should I send the alert?" "To Earth Command?" "Do it," Jake replied. "Tell them the Zephyrians have made their demand. Tell them we refused. And tell them to begin Operation Sleeping Giant." Rodriguez's fingers flew over his keyboard. Within minutes, coded messages were racing toward Earth and to secret bases throughout the solar system. Messages that would wake up weapons and ships that had been hidden for decades. Messages that would reveal humanity's true strength. Jake walked to the window and looked out at the alien fleet. The 12 massive ships hung in space like dark mountains. They were impressive, he had to admit. But they had made one crucial mistake. They thought they knew everything about humans based on what they could see. "Sir," said Lieutenant Sarah, "Collins from the tactical station. The alien ships are moving into a standard blockade formation around Earth's moon. They're not approaching any closer." "Good," Jake replied. "They're being cautious. That gives us time." Ambassador Lisa Torres entered the bridge. She had been listening to the entire conversation from the diplomatic station. "Captain, I've been in contact with President Carter. She wants to know if you think they'll actually attack." Jake nodded grimly. "They will. These Zephyrians have conquered almost 1,000 worlds. They don't know how to handle rejection. When their 72-hour deadline passes and we still refuse, they'll try to force us to submit." "And will we be ready?" Torres asked. Jake smiled, and this time it was a real smile. "Ambassador, humans have been getting ready for this day since we first looked up at the stars. We've been preparing for hostile contact for over a century. These aliens think they know us, but they only see what we want them to see." He turned back to the window, watching the alien ships in the distance. "In 72 hours, the Zephyrian Empire is going to learn something new about humans. They're going to learn that we don't just fight for freedom. We win." Admiral Crixville stood in the command center of his massive warship. The ship was called the Eternal Dominion, and it was 5 miles long. Around him, dozens of alien officers worked at their stations. They all looked confident. Why wouldn't they? They had never lost a battle. "Report," Crixville ordered. His voice echoed through the bridge. "Sir, our scans of the human homeworld are complete," said his intelligence officer. "They have primitive nuclear weapons, basic energy shields. Perhaps 50 small warships in total. Their technology appears to be at least 200 years behind ours." Crixville nodded. This was exactly what he expected. "What about their population?" 8 billion humans on the planet, several small colonies on nearby worlds. "Nothing significant." The officer paused. "Sir, they seem to have only achieved faster-than-light travel in the last 50 years. They are very new to space." "Excellent," Crixville said. "And their defenses?" 12 orbital platforms around their planet. Basic shield generators. Some missile batteries. Nothing that could threaten even our smallest ships." The officer looked pleased with himself. "Sir, this will be the easiest conquest in Empire history." Crixville walked to the large window that showed Earth in the distance. The blue and green planet looked peaceful, almost pretty. It was hard to believe such a weak species could be so foolish as to refuse the Empire's generous offer. Perhaps they simply don't understand, he said to his second-in-command. "Many primitive species make mistakes when they first meet us. Fear makes them say foolish things. Should we attack now, sir?" asked the weapons officer. We could destroy their orbital defenses in minutes. No, Crixville replied. The Emperor prefers peaceful submission when possible. We will wait the full 72 hours. When they see our power, they will surrender. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Helen Carter sat in the most secure room in the world. Around her, the leaders of Earth's military forces gathered for an emergency meeting. The room was deep underground, protected by layers of metal and energy shields. General Barnes, what's our status? President Carter asked. General Rick Barnes stood up. He was a tall man with gray hair and serious eyes. He had been preparing for this day his entire career. Madam President, Operation Sleeping Giant is now active. All hidden bases are responding. Our true fleet is moving into position. Our true fleet? Asked Senator Williams, one of the civilian leaders. I thought we only had 50 ships. General Barnes smiled. Sir, that's what we wanted everyone to think, including any aliens who might be watching us. He pressed a button, and a holographic display filled the room. This is what we actually have. The display showed the solar system, but now it was filled with hundreds of red dots. Ships appeared near Jupiter, in the asteroid belt, around Saturn's rings, and in the outer darkness beyond Pluto. My God, whispered Senator Williams. How many ships is that? 347 combat vessels, Barnes replied, plus support ships, supply vessels, and mobile bases. We've been building them in secret for over 80 years. Dr. Amy Walsh stepped forward. She was the head of Earth's Alien Research Division. Madam President, I've been analyzing the electromagnetic emissions from the alien diplomatic shuttle. Their technology is advanced, but it has weaknesses. What kind of weaknesses? Carter asked. Their shields operate on a rotating frequency pattern. It's very sophisticated, but also predictable. Once we map the pattern, we can time our weapons to hit when the shields are weakest. Dr. Walsh brought up another display. Also, their whole material appears to be a crystalline composite. It's strong against most weapons, but extremely vulnerable to focused electromagnetic pulses. General Barnes nodded approvingly. In other words, Doctor, we can hurt them. More than hurt them, General. We can destroy them. Dr. Walsh looked confident. I estimate our weapons will be 60% more effective against their ships than they expect. President Carter leaned back in her chair. General, what's our real strength compared to theirs? Honestly, ship for ship, they're probably stronger. Their individual vessels are larger and more heavily armed. But they're fighting the last war, not this one. Barnes changed the display to show battle formations. They're used to fighting other alien species who use their same tactics. Stand in a line, shoot at each other until someone dies. And we won't do that? Asked Senator Williams. Sir, humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years. We invented ambush tactics, guerrilla warfare, and strategic deception. We don't. Fight fair. We fight to win. Barnes looked around the room. These aliens conquered 800 worlds using the same basic strategy every time. They show up, demand surrender, then use superior firepower to force submission. It worked because everyone they fought tried to meet them head-on. Dr. Walsh added, they also seem to believe that technological superiority guarantees victory. They can't imagine that a primitive species could defeat them through better tactics. What about their deadline? Carter asked. We'll meet it, Barnes said firmly, but not the way they expect. Captain Morrison is coordinating the first phase from the orbital platform. When their 72 hours are up, we'll give them an answer they won't forget. Back on the alien flagship, Admiral Crixville was reviewing reports from his scout ships. The news was exactly what he expected. The humans had made no preparations for war. Their ships remained in the same positions. Their orbital defenses showed no increased activity. Sir, said his communications officer. "We're receiving a transmission from one of the outer system patrol ships." "Put it through," Crixville ordered. The voice that came through was filled with static. "Admiral, finding strange readings. Asteroid belt ... request permission to investigate." Then the transmission cut to silence. "Contact the patrol ship," Crixville ordered. "I'm trying, sir." No response. Crixville frowned. Technical problems were rare with Empire ships, but they did happen. "Send another patrol to investigate." "Probably just a communications failure." "Yes, sir." On Earth's orbital station, Captain Morrison watched the tactical display. Lieutenant Rodriguez had just confirmed that the first alien scout ship had been destroyed. It happened exactly as planned. The ship investigated some unusual energy readings in the asteroid belt and never realized it was flying into a trap. "Sir, the second alien patrol ship is moving to investigate," reported Lieutenant Collins. "Should we take it out too?" "Not yet," Morrison replied. "We don't want them to realize what's happening too quickly. Let them find some wreckage. Let them think it was an accident." Morrison turned to his staff. "Remember, the key to this whole operation is timing. They think they know everything about US. They think we're weak and scared. We need to let them keep thinking that until the moment we show them the truth." Dr. Walsh's voice came through the communication system from Earth. "Captain, we finished analyzing their ship designs. I'm uploading the tactical data now. Their weakest points are exactly where we predicted." "Understood, Doctor. How long until we're ready for the main event?" "All fleet elements will be in position in 36 hours, sir." Morrison smiled as he looked out at the alien fleet. They hung in space like sleeping giants, confident in their power. They had no idea that hundreds of human ships were already surrounding them, invisible and waiting. 36 hours, Morrison said quietly. "Then we show them what humans do to bullies." Commander Tony Mitchell floated in the cockpit of his stealth fighter. Around him, space looked empty and black. But he knew better. 15 other human pilots were flying nearby, all invisible to alien sensors. Their ships used special coding that bent light and absorbed radar signals. To the aliens, they simply didn't exist. "Ghost Squadron, this is Ghost Leader." Tony spoke quietly into his radio. "Target is 3 miles ahead. Remember the mission. Hit fast, hit hard, and get out before they know what happened." The alien scout ships moved slowly through the asteroid belt. There were 3 of them, each one the size of a human destroyer. They were looking for their missing patrol ship, the one that had mysteriously stopped responding 12 hours ago. Tony checked his weapon systems. Everything was green. His plasma torpedoes were charged and ready. These weren't ordinary human weapons. Dr. Walsh's team had built them specifically to fight Zephyrian ships. They used the frequency patterns that would punch right through alien shields. "Ghost Leader, this is Ghost 7, came a voice over the radio. It was Lieutenant Kelly Adams, one of the best pilots in the squadron. "I have a clear shot on the lead ship. Hold position, Ghost 7. We attack together." Tony watched the alien ships on his display. They were moving in a perfect formation, just like their training manuals probably said they should. "All units, prepare for attack run. On my mark." The alien ships continued their search. They had no idea that death was floating silently around them. Their sensors showed nothing but rocks and empty space. Their shields were at minimum power. To save energy, they weren't expecting trouble. "All units, this is Ghost Leader. Attack in 3.2.1. mark." 16 human fighters suddenly appeared on alien sensors as they fired their weapons. Bright streams of plasma shot across space. The alien ships tried to raise their shields, but it was too late. The human torpedoes hit before the shields could. Strengthened out, the first alien ship exploded in a ball of fire. The second ship's hull cracked open, spilling air and alien bodies into space. The third ship managed to get a distress signal started, but a second wave of torpedoes cut it short. "Direct hits on all targets," reported Ghost 7. "All alien ships destroyed. Good work, people," Tony replied. "Now let's get out of here before their friends come looking." The human fighters activated their stealth systems again and vanished from alien sensors. Within minutes, they were gone, leaving only wreckage floating in the asteroid belt. On the Zephyrian flagship, Admiral Krixval stared at his communications panel. A display showed 3 red dots where his scout ships used to be. Then the dots disappeared entirely. "Sir, we've lost contact with Scout Group Alpha," reported his communications officer. The alien's voice was worried. Their last transmission was cut off in the middle of a sentence. What was their last message? Krixval asked. "Something about detecting multiple contacts, sir." Then nothing. Krixval felt a cold feeling in his stomach. 3 ships don't just disappear. Send Scout Group Beta to investigate. And tell them to keep their shields up and weapons ready. Yes, sir. But Scout Group Beta would find nothing except debris. The human fighters were already 50 miles away, hiding in the shadow of a large asteroid. They waited and watched as more alien ships arrived to investigate. On Earth's orbital station, Captain Morrison received Tony's report with satisfaction. "Excellent work, Commander. Return to base for rearming." "Understood, sir," Tony replied. "Any word on the next phase?" "Soon, Commander. Very soon." Morrison turned to Lieutenant Rodriguez. "Send a message to General Barnes. Tell him Phase 1 is complete. All alien scouts in the outer system have been eliminated." Back on Earth, General Barnes received the message in the underground command center. President Carter was still there, along with the other government leaders. They had been waiting for news. "Madam President, our pilots have successfully destroyed 6 alien scout ships. The enemy no longer has eyes in the outer solar system." "Any human casualties?" Carter asked. "None. The aliens never even saw our fighters coming." Senator Williams looked confused. "How is that possible? I thought their technology was more advanced than ours." Dr. Walsh answered from her station. "Senator, advanced doesn't always mean better. Their sensors are designed to detect the kind of ships other alien species use. They're not looking for our type of stealth technology." "It's like bringing a sword to a gunfight," General Barnes added. "Their equipment is impressive, but it's not designed to fight humans." On the alien flagship, Admiral Krixval was starting to worry. He had now lost 9 ships to unknown causes. His officers kept reporting equipment failures and communication problems, but Krixval suspected something else was happening. "Sir," said his science officer, "I've been analyzing the wreckage from the scout ships. The damage patterns are unusual." "Unusual how?" "The weapons that destroyed our ships used a frequency that perfectly matched our shield vulnerabilities. That suggests detailed knowledge of our technology." Krixval's 4 eyes narrowed. "Are you saying the humans attacked our ships?" "I'm saying someone did, sir. And whoever it was knew exactly how our shields work." The Admiral looked out at Earth, hanging peacefully in space. The planet showed no signs of military activity. Its orbital defenses looked as weak as ever. But something was destroying his ships, and he was starting to suspect these primitive humans weren't as helpless as they appeared. "Increase patrols around the fleet," he ordered, "and tell all ships to maintain full shields and weapons ready status." "Sir, that will use a lot of energy. Our ships won't be able to maintain that level of readiness for more than a few days." "Then we'd better finish this quickly," Krixval replied grimly. Captain Morrison watched the alien fleet from his station. He could see them changing their formations, raising their shields, preparing for battle. Good. That meant they were starting to understand they were in a real fight. Lieutenant Collins, what's the status of our main fleet? All ships are in position, sir. The U's Defiance is ready to decloak on your command. The battle groups are surrounding the alien fleet. They still don't know we're here. Morrison nodded. The aliens had fallen perfectly into the trap. They were now positioned exactly where human strategists wanted them to be, surrounded by hidden ships they couldn't detect. "Sir," said Rodriguez, "we're receiving a transmission from the alien flagship." "Put it through." Admiral Crixvoll's face appeared on the screen. He looked angry and worried. "Captain Morrison, I know you can hear me. My ships are being attacked by unknown forces. I demand an explanation." Morrison smiled calmly. "Admiral, I warned you what would happen if your ships remained in our solar system. You chose to ignore that warning. You claim your primitive vessels are destroying Imperial warships. Impossible. Admiral, let me give you some advice. Humans have a saying, never assume your enemy is weaker than you just because they look different. We've been watching your empire for years. We know how your ships work. We know how you fight. And we know how to beat you." Crixvoll's spikes moved rapidly, showing his anger. "If you have declared war on the Empire, then you will face the consequences. I will destroy your pathetic planet." "You're welcome to try," Morrison replied. "But you might want to look around first." Morrison cut the transmission and turned to Collins. "Lieutenant, send the signal to all ships. Begin Phase 2. Across the solar system, human warships began to power up their weapons and drop their stealth fields. The real battle was about to begin. Admiral Crixvoll stood on his bridge, staring at the main display. Earth hung before them like a blue jewel, looking peaceful and defenseless. He had made his decision. The humans had destroyed his scout ships, and now they would pay the price. "All ships, prepare for orbital bombardment," he commanded. "Target their major cities. We will show them what happens when primitives challenge the Empire." Around him, his officers worked quickly at their stations. The 12 massive Zephyrian warships moved into attack formation, their weapons charged with deadly energy. In minutes, they would reduce Earth's largest cities to ash and force the humans to surrender. "Sir, weapons are charged and ready," reported his weapons officer. "We can begin bombardment on your command." Crixvoll raised his hand, ready to give the order that would end human resistance forever. "Fire when ready." But before the weapons officer could press the firing button, alarms began screaming throughout the ship. Red lights flashed everywhere. Officers shouted in panic, "Sir, multiple contacts appearing on sensors," yelled the tactical officer. "Hundreds of ships." "What?" Crixvoll spun around to look at the display. What he saw made his blood turn cold. Space around the Zephyrian fleet was suddenly full of human warships. They appeared from nowhere, as if they had been invisible. Small fighters, medium destroyers, and massive battle cruisers materialized in every direction. The humans had completely surrounded the alien fleet. "How many ships?" Crixvoll demanded. 347 combat vessels, sir, plus support ships. We're outnumbered 4-1. Above the alien flagship, the largest human ship ever built slowly became visible. The U's Defiance was 1.5 miles long, bristling with weapons. Its hull was scarred from decades of secret testing, but its weapons were brand new and deadly. On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Morrison looked down at the alien fleet. They were trapped exactly where he wanted them. Years of planning had led to this moment. "This is Captain Morrison to all human ships," he broadcast on all frequencies. "Remember, we're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting for every world. These aliens have conquered. We're fighting for freedom itself." "Sir," said Lieutenant Collins, "all ships report ready for battle." Morrison opened a channel to the alien flagship. "Admiral Crixvoll, This is your final warning. Order your ships to leave our solar system immediately, or we will destroy them." On the alien bridge, Crixville stared at the human captain on his screen. How had this happened? His intelligence reports said the humans had only 50 small ships. Now he was facing the largest fleet he had ever seen. "This is impossible," he whispered. Then he spoke louder. "You are bluffing, human. Your ships are still primitive. Size does not matter. Our technology is superior." Morrison's expression didn't change. "Admiral, you've made two big mistakes. First, you assumed we were primitive because we wanted you to think that. Second, you came to our home system and threatened our families." His voice grew harder. "Humans don't forgive that kind of threat. You cannot defeat the Empire," Crixville shouted. "We have conquered 847 worlds." "Yes, but you conquered them using the same tactics every time," Morrison replied calmly. "You show up with superior firepower and demand surrender. It worked because everyone you fought tried to meet you in open battle." Morrison smiled grimly. "We're not everyone else." Morrison cut the transmission and turned to his weapons officer. "Commander Peterson, you may begin the demonstration." The human fleet opened fire. The battle was unlike anything the Zephyrians had ever experienced. Instead of standing in neat lines and shooting at each other, the human ships moved in complex patterns. They attacked from multiple angles, using the asteroids and space debris as cover. Their weapons hit the alien ships at exactly the right frequency to punch through their shields. "Sir, the humans are using coordinated pack tactics," reported the alien tactical officer. "Our ships can't target them effectively. They're moving too fast and working together." 3 human destroyers swooped down on one of the alien cruisers. Their plasma cannons fired in sequence, each shot hitting the same spot on the enemy's hull. The alien ship's shields collapsed, and the hull cracked open like an egg. "Impossible," Crixville screamed. "Our shields are the best in the galaxy." "Doctor." Walsh's voice came over the human communication network from Earth. "All ships, this is Control. Enemy shield frequencies are exactly as predicted. Continue targeting their weak points." On Earth, General Barnes coordinated the battle from the underground command center. Displays showed the fight happening in space above. President Carter watched as human ships danced around the larger alien vessels, striking like wolves attacking a herd of elephants. "General, how are we doing?" Carter asked. "Better than expected, Madam President. The aliens are trying to use standard Imperial tactics, but they don't work against our fighting style. We've already disabled 4 of their ships." In space, Commander Tony Mitchell led his fighter squadron in attack runs against the alien flagship. The massive ship was trying to turn its main guns toward Earth, but the human fighters kept hitting its weapon systems. "Ghost Squadron, concentrate fire on their main batteries," Tony ordered. "Don't let them target the planet." The alien gunners tried to track the fast-moving human fighters, but they were used to fighting slow, predictable enemies. The human pilots flew in patterns that seemed random, but were actually carefully planned. They hit the alien ship from 6 different directions at once. Admiral Crixville felt his flagship shaking under the human attacks. His largest guns were offline. His shields were failing. Around him, officers reported more bad news. "Sir, the cruiser Eternal Victory is destroyed. The destroyer Bloodfang is losing life support. The battleship Iron Conquest is requesting permission to retreat." "No retreat," Crixville roared. "We are the Zephyrian Empire. We do not run from primitives." But even as he spoke, another of his ships exploded. The humans were tearing his fleet apart with surgical precision. Every attack hit exactly where it would do the most damage. It was as if they knew his ships better than he did. Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice came over the human communication network. "All ships, be advised. Enemy flagship is attempting to target Earth's surface. Repeat, they're trying to bomb the planet. Morrison's voice was ice cold. All ships new priority target. Disable that flagship's weapons before they can fire on Earth. The entire human fleet turned toward Krixval's ship. Hundreds of weapons focused on the massive alien vessel. The ship's shields collapsed under the concentrated fire. Its hull began to crack and burn. "Sir, we have to retreat," pleaded Krixval as second in command. "We're losing the entire fleet." Krixval looked around his burning bridge. Half his officers were dead or wounded. His mighty fleet was being destroyed by enemies he had thought were helpless primitives. For the first time in his life, he felt real fear. "All ships," he said quietly into his communicator. "This is Admiral Krixval. Retreat to minimum safe distance. Cease all attacks on human forces." The surviving alien ships began to pull back, their hulls smoking and damaged. They moved slowly, like wounded animals seeking shelter. Morrison watched them go. "All ships, hold fire. Let them retreat. We've made our point." Lieutenant Collins looked at her captain. "Sir, shouldn't we finish them off?" "No, Lieutenant. We wanted to show them they can't bully us. We've done that. Now we see if they're smart enough to learn from it." Morrison opened a channel to the alien flagship one more time. "Admiral Krixval, you now know what happens when you threaten Earth. Take this message back to your Emperor. Humans don't pay tribute to anyone, and we protect those who can't protect themselves." He paused, looking at the damaged alien ships. "You have 48 hours to leave our solar system. If you're still here after that, we'll finish what you started." The transmission ended. In space around Earth, hundreds of human warships held their positions, watching as the once mighty Zephyrian fleet limped away into the darkness. The news traveled fast across the galaxy. On a dozen different worlds, alien species who had lived under Zephyrian rule for generations heard whispers of something impossible. A species called humans had fought the Empire and won. On the planet, Kalara, a blue-skinned alien named Vexstar, listened to the underground radio broadcast with disbelief. His people had been conquered 50 years ago. They paid tribute every year and watched their children taken as workers for the Empire. "Is it true?" he asked the radio operator, a fellow Kelleron named Zixal. "Did someone really defeat an Imperial fleet?" "The reports are coming from multiple sources," Zixal replied quietly. They had to whisper because Imperial troops patrolled the streets outside. A species called humans destroyed most of Admiral Krixval's battle group. The survivors barely escaped. Vexstar felt something he hadn't felt in 50 years. Hope. 3 systems away, on the rocky world of Thanos Prime, an insectoid creature named Chittick heard the same news. The Thanesians had been under Imperial rule for over a century. Their planet was strip-mined for metals to build Imperial ships. "Humans," Chittick said the word slowly, tasting it. "What kind of species are they?" His friend Galactic brought up data. "On a hidden computer. From what we can learn, they're from a planet called Earth. They're mammals, like the Vashti. But they have something different. They refuse to surrender." "No one refuses the Empire," Chittick said automatically. "It was what every conquered species was taught." "These humans did," Galactic replied. "And they backed it up with force." The story spread from world to world, carried by traders, smugglers, and secret communications networks. Each telling made the humans sound more powerful, more dangerous to the Empire. Soon, the name Earth was being whispered in 100 languages. Across the galaxy. On Earth itself, President Carter stood before the cameras in the Global Broadcasting Center. Behind her, a huge display showed the solar system. The alien ships were gone, but everyone knew they would be back. "Citizens of Earth," she began, 3 days ago, we faced our first contact with an alien empire. They demanded that we surrender our freedom and pay tribute like hundreds of other worlds before us. We said no. The camera showed footage of the space battle. Human ships dancing around the larger alien vessels, explosions lighting up the darkness. The moment when the alien fleet retreated in defeat. Today I want to speak not just to humans, but to every intelligent species in the galaxy. My message is simple. Freedom is not negotiable. No one has the right to rule others through fear and force. And Earth will stand with anyone who fights for their independence. Carter paused, looking directly into the camera. To the Zephyrian Empire, we offer this choice. Begin treating other species as equals, or face the consequences. We give you 30 days to start withdrawing from conquered worlds and establishing fair diplomatic relations. If you don't, we will consider all Imperial forces to be legitimate targets. The broadcast was transmitted on every frequency humans could reach. It went out to alien communication networks, smuggler channels, and diplomatic frequencies. Within hours, every civilized world in the galaxy had heard Earth's ultimatum. On the Zephyrian homeworld, Emperor Vexhall sat on his crystal throne in the Imperial Palace. The throne room was huge, with walls that reached toward the sky. Around him, his advisors argued about what to do next. "Sire, we must respond with overwhelming force," said General Tysak. "If we allow this insult to stand, other worlds will rebel." "The general is right," agreed Admiral Zorval. "We have 500 ships in the home fleet. We could crush these humans completely." But Intelligence Director Nixith had different news. "Sire, the humans' message has already caused problems. We have reports of unrest on 12 worlds. 3 colonial governors are requesting additional troops." Emperor Vexhall's 6 arms moved restlessly. His species had ruled the galaxy for 3 centuries. No one had ever challenged imperial power successfully. Until now. "What do we know about these humans?" he asked. Nix single quotes ETH activated a holographic display. Earth appeared, rotating slowly. "They call their world Earth. Population 8 billion. They achieved spaceflight only recently, but their technology is more advanced than we initially believed." "How advanced?" Vexhall demanded. "Their stealth technology is superior to ours, sire. Their weapons are specifically designed to exploit our defensive systems. And their tactical coordination is ... unusual. Unusual how? They fight like predators, sire. Pack hunters. Most species in the galaxy evolved from prey animals or plant eaters. Humans evolved from persistence hunters who tracked down and killed large, dangerous animals." The Emperor was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke. "Send a message to all sector commanders. Any world that rebels is to be crushed immediately. And begin preparing the Grand Armada. If these humans want a war, they will have one." Meanwhile, Dr. Walsh worked in her laboratory on Earth, studying captured pieces of alien technology. The battle had provided her with samples of Zephyrian hull material, shield generators, and weapon systems. "Captain Morrison," she said over the communication system, "I have good news and bad news." Morrison's voice came back from the orbital station. "Give me the bad news first, Doctor. The Zephyrians will be back, and they'll bring everything they have. I estimate they can field at least 500 ships for a major assault. And the good news? Their technology is becoming predictable. The more samples we analyze, the better we understand their weaknesses. I believe we can upgrade our weapons to be even more effective against them. How much time do you need?" "Give me 2 weeks, and I can make our entire fleet 30% more deadly." On the planet Kalara, Vextar and his friends gathered in a hidden basement. They had been planning this meeting for days, ever since hearing about the human victory. "The humans prove it can be done," Vextar said to the group. The Empire can be beaten, but we don't have their weapons, protested another Kelleron. We don't have their ships. We have something else, replied Zixal. We have knowledge of Imperial bases, patrol schedules, and supply routes. Information the humans could use. You're talking about treason, someone whispered. I'm talking about freedom, Vextar said firmly. Our children deserve better than a life of slavery. Similar conversations were happening on dozens of worlds. The human victory had lit a fire that was spreading across the galaxy. Commander Tony Mitchell led a small fleet of human ships to the Thanis system. Their mission was to make contact with the local resistance and offer support. As his stealth fighters approached the planet, he marveled at the industrial scars covering its surface. Ghost Squadron, this is Ghost Leader, he said. Into his radio. Remember, we're not here to fight. We're here to help these people fight for themselves. His communication officer picked up a weak signal from the planet's surface. It was in broken English, clearly translated from another language. Human ships ... we see you. We want to help ... freedom for all worlds. Tony smiled inside his helmet. This is Commander Mitchell of Earth. We hear you, friends, and we're here to help. Back on the Zephyrian homeworld, Emperor Vex Hall received reports that made his mood darker by the hour. Rebellion on Kalara. Riots on Thanis Prime. Supply convoys attacked by unknown ships. His empire was beginning to crack. How many worlds are in open revolt? He asked. 17, sire, and the number is growing. Vex Hall stood from his throne. Then we will crush them all. Send orders to the Grand Armada. We attack Earth in 1 month. And when we're finished with the humans, we'll make examples of every world that dared to rebel. But even as he spoke, the Emperor knew something had changed forever. For 3 centuries, the Empire had ruled through fear. Now, for the first time, the galaxy had hoped out, and hope, once lit, was very hard to extinguish. 6 months had passed since the first battle at Earth. Now, representatives from 200 different worlds gathered at Unity Station, the galaxy's first truly free space station. The massive structure orbited a neutral star, built by dozens of species working together. Admiral Jake Morrison, promoted after his victory over the Zephyrian fleet, stood at the observation deck watching ships arrive. Vessels from across the galaxy brought delegates to sign the most important treaty in Hung. Galactic history. Human ships flew alongside Kelleron cruisers, Thanesian mining vessels, and craft from dozens of worlds that had won their freedom. Admiral, said Captain Lisa Torres, now serving as Earth's chief diplomat, a Zephyrian delegation has arrived. Jake nodded, watching a single Imperial ship approach the station. It was much smaller than the massive warships that had first threatened Earth. Emperor Vexhall had learned that bigger wasn't always better. The signing ceremony took place in Unity Station's largest hall. The room was filled with beings from across the galaxy. Some breathed oxygen like humans. Others required special atmosphere suits. Some had 4 arms, others had 6 legs, and a few didn't have solid bodies at all. But they all shared one thing. They were free. President Carter stood at the central podium, looking out at the incredible diversity of galactic civilization. 6 months ago, humanity took its first steps into the wider galaxy. We were told to surrender our freedom and pay tribute to an empire that ruled through fear. We said no. The audience included species that had been slaves for centuries. They listened with amazement as the human president continued. Today, we gather not as conquerors and conquered, but as equals. The galactic accords we sign today will establish a new principle. Every intelligent species has the right to govern itself. No empire, no matter how powerful, has the right to rule others without their consent. Emperor Vexhall sat with his small delegation in the front row. The proud ruler who had once commanded 800 worlds now looked tired and defeated. His empire had collapsed as world after world declared independence. Rebellions inspired by humanity's example had torn apart 3 centuries of imperial. RUL.E. Dr. Amy Walsh stood next to a massive holographic display showing the new galactic map. Where once there had been a single imperial color covering most of the galaxy, now there were hundreds of different colors representing free worlds. Zephyrian Empire agrees to recognize the independence of all former imperial worlds. She read from the treaty document. Imperial forces will withdraw to the original Zephyrian home system and 10 voluntary colonial worlds. The Empire will establish normal diplomatic relations with all independent governments. Emperor Vexhol rose slowly from his seat. His 6 arms moved in a gesture that meant acceptance in his culture. I sign this treaty on behalf of what remains of the Zephyrian Empire. We accept these terms. His voice was barely a whisper. A mighty emperor who had once commanded 1,000 worlds was now ruler of only 11. But at least those 11 worlds had chosen to stay with the Empire voluntarily. The ceremony continued as worlds. Representatives from dozens of worlds stepped forward to sign the accords. Each signature represented millions of beings who were free for. The first time in generations, Vexstar from Kellara signed for his world with tears in his eyes. His people had removed the imperial mining equipment and were beginning to heal their damaged planet. Children who had been born as slaves would grow up as free citizens. Chittick from Thanos Prime signed next, his insectoid hands shaking with emotion. The Thanesians had already begun converting their strip mines into underground cities where their people could live safely. One by one, the former slaves became the leaders of free worlds. General Rick Barnes stood with a group of military officers from various species. They were planning the creation of the Galactic Defense Alliance, a mutual protection treaty to prevent any future empire from rising to threaten freedom. The key, Barnes explained to his alien counterparts, is cooperation without domination. Each world defends itself, but we help each other when threatened. No single species rules the Alliance. Commander Tony Mitchell had been promoted to lead the Alliance's training program. He worked with pilots from dozens of worlds, teaching them the tactics that had defeated the Empire. Former Imperial slaves were learning to fly like the humans who had freed them. Remember, he told a class of mixed species, the Empire lost because they thought all species fought the same way. We won because we adapted our tactics to our strengths. Find what makes your species unique and use it. The signing ceremony reached its climax as President Carter picked up the treaty document. Her signature would make the Galactic Accords official law. Humans have always believed that freedom is the natural right of all intelligent beings, she said. Today, that belief becomes galactic law. No species will ever again be forced to pay tribute to tyrants. She signed her name with a simple pen, the same kind humans had used for centuries. The gesture was symbolic. Sometimes the simplest tools were the most powerful. As the ceremony ended, beings from across the galaxy celebrated together. Species that had never met before shook hands, touched tentacles, or performed whatever greeting their culture preferred. The diversity was incredible, but the feeling of freedom was universal. Admiral Morrison found himself on the observation deck again, watching the celebration. Captain Torres joined him, both looking out at the fleet of ships from free worlds. Do you think it will last? Torres asked. This peace we've built? Morrison considered the question. There will always be someone who wants to rule others. But now the galaxy knows that empires can be defeated. The next tyrant who tries to build an empire will face 200 worlds that know how to fight for freedom. Dr. Walsh appeared beside them, holding a datapad with reports from across the galaxy. The former imperial worlds are already sharing technology and resources. Scientific cooperation is advancing faster than we ever imagined. When species work together instead of being forced to serve an empire, amazing things happen. Through the station's windows, they could see construction ships building new trade routes between former enemy worlds. Cargo vessels carried goods freely across space that had once been divided by imperial borders. Communication networks spread information and ideas without imperial sensors blocking the signals. In the distance, a new ship approached the station. It was unlike anything they had seen before, a vessel built by 5 different species working together, combining their technologies and cultures into something entirely new. "That's the future," Morrison said, pointing to the approaching ship. Not human ships or Kelleran ships or Phoenician ships, but ships built by free beings working together. The galaxy had learned something important from its encounter with humanity. It wasn't human technology or human weapons that had defeated the Empire. It was the human refusal to accept that freedom could be traded for safety. That stubborn insistence that all intelligent beings had the right to choose their own path. Emperor Vexhol's ship departed Unity Station, carrying him back to his much smaller domain. The empire that had ruled for 3 centuries was finished. But in its place, something better had begun. As Morrison watched the celebration continue, he thought about Captain Jake Morrison from 6 months ago, standing on an orbital platform facing an alien ultimatum. That man could never have imagined that his simple refusal to pay tribute would lead to this moment. But then again, humans had always been good at surprising the galaxy. The treaty was signed. The empire was finished. And across 200 worlds, beings who had been slaves yesterday were free citizens today. The galaxy would never be the same.